How do you go from zero to rich, from nothing to real measurable wealth? Last week, I released a teaching called From Zero to Rich. If you didn't watch it yet, you can find it right after this and start there, because today is a direct continuation. That first video explained the foundation and why this journey is not a fantasy, it's a process. And clearly it struck a nerve because people didn't just click it, they stayed with it. This episode is the follow-up. And yes, it's still a Bible-based teaching because the passage we started with last week is the same passage we're continuing today. The difference is I'm going to read more of it, pull out more of the meaning, and then build the next layer of the framework. I also want to quickly restate the context because some of you are listening from a place that feels like zero. I've been there. 10 years ago, I wasn't just broke. I was below broke. I was living on borrowed money. I had a friend who carried me about $4,000 a month through 2013 and 2014 while I was rebuilding my life. That's not down, that's negative territory. Now fast forward. From the beginning of 2020 through 2021, 2022, 2023, and the first half of 2024, our business generated $41,375,194.41 in revenue. And I know those numbers were accurate because I asked my accountant to pull the exact totals from January 2020 through last week. Now let me be clear, I'm not promising you'll hit that exact number in that exact time frame. That's not the point. The point is this: if you apply the principles I'm about to teach, your odds of producing more than you've ever produced before rise dramatically because principles create predictable results. And with that said, let's anchor this where it belongs, in Scripture. This passage is what God spoke through Moses to Israel before they entered the Promised Land, and it's important to understand the picture. Coming out of Egypt represents rescue and deliverance. Entering the Promised Land is a picture of the Spirit-directed life, not merely going to heaven, but learning to live under God's leadership with maturity, responsibility, and fruit. And just to clarify something many people misunderstand, Spirit-filled doesn't primarily mean emotional intensity. Emotions can happen, but the simplest definition is Spirit-controlled, directed by God's Spirit, the way being filled with something else can direct a person's behavior. That's a separate teaching for another day, but it matters. Now listen to Deuteronomy 8:1-18. God warns them not to forget him. He says, "When you eat and are full, when you build good houses and live in them, when your herds multiply, when your silver and gold multiply, and everything you have increases, be careful your heart doesn't become proud, and you forget the Lord who brought you out of bondage." He reminds them, God led them through a harsh wilderness, danger, drought, scarcity, and he provided anyway. He humbled them, tested them, fed them, sustained them, and proved his faithfulness. Then comes the warning, don't say in your heart, my power and the strength of my hands got me this wealth. Remember the Lord your God. It is he who gives you the power to get wealth, so he may establish his covenant. That line is the center of this entire series. God gives power to get wealth. Not luck, not favoritism, not magic, power. Now I need to address something directly because a lot of believers have been taught that wealth is automatically sinful, automatically corrupting, automatically wrong. And I want to say this as clearly as possible. The idea that God, the God of abundance, desires his people to be trapped in lack as a spiritual virtue is false doctrine. If Scripture says God gives the power to get wealth, then wealth itself cannot be inherently evil. God does not empower people to pursue something he condemns as inherently wicked. Some people immediately bring up the camel in the eye of the needle. That passage matters, but it cannot be interpreted in a way that contradicts the rest of Scripture. Scripture is consistent. Truth doesn't fight itself. The Bible also says, the blessing of the Lord makes rich, and he adds no sorrow with it. God doesn't bless people with something morally evil. Proverbs also teaches that wisdom brings riches and honor, even durable riches and righteousness, which means you can be rich and righteous when wealth is pursued and handled God's way. And if you need a concrete example, look at Abraham. The first person Scripture explicitly describes as rich is not a pagan king. It's Abram. And it doesn't just say rich, it says very rich in tangible assets, livestock, silver, and gold. So we're not debating whether wealth is allowed. The text already answered that. The real question is, why does God give the power to get wealth? Not for ego, not for image, not for endless consumption. The passage tells you, God gives power to get wealth to establish His covenant, to advance His purpose in the earth through people who honor Him. So now that the foundation is clear, here's where we go next. Today we move into the next major area, the power of proficiency. Proficiency means becoming genuinely skilled, becoming good at the things that actually produce outcomes. If you're going from zero to wealth, there are specific arenas where you must become proficient. And before I list them, I want to give you one sentence that organizes the whole conversation. Income follows assets. That's not my original phrase. It's a principle taught clearly by Daniel Priestley in his work on assets and wealth building. Income follows assets. So the next question is, where do assets come from? Here's the model. Mindset, skill set, tool set assets, and assets produce income. If you don't have assets either, your mindset is underdeveloped, or your skill set is underdeveloped, or your tool set is underdeveloped, or some combination of the three. So today we'll focus on two, mindset and skill set. We'll get to tool set next. Let's start with mindset. A proficient mindset begins where all transformation begins, awareness. You can't improve what you can't see. If you don't understand how something works, you will keep trying to work it the wrong way. And business, especially wealth creation, is deeply connected to people. The money you want is currently in someone else's possession. For them to exchange it with you, you must deliver something they desire more than the money they're holding. That requires understanding principles and understanding human nature. And it also requires humility. Even your ability to be good at something is a gift from God. That doesn't cancel work, it gives credit where it belongs. Let me illustrate awareness with one of the clearest stories in Scripture, Hagar and the well, Genesis 21. Hagar is in the wilderness with her son. The water runs out. She places the child under a shrub, walks away, and breaks down because she can't bear to watch him suffer. Then God intervenes. And here's the key detail. Scripture doesn't say God dug a new well. It says God opened her eyes and she saw a well. Meaning, the provision was already there. She didn't lack access. She lacked awareness. And this is why the story is in the Bible, because many people are so focused on what's missing that they can't see what's available. Sometimes your tears are not proof that God has abandoned you. Sometimes they're proof that your focus has narrowed so much that you're blind to the resource that's already within reach. That's why Scripture says, "My people are destroyed for lack of knowledge." Not because knowledge is unavailable, but because people often reject it. And why reject knowledge? Because they think they already know. One of the biggest enemies of growth is the belief, I already understand. So if you want a proficient mindset, here's a powerful daily prayer. God, open my eyes, increase my awareness. Show me what's already here. Show me where to serve. Show me the opportunities you've placed around me. Because opportunity is not what's missing. What's missing is often clarity. Now here's the awareness that changes everything in business. You must become more aware of what's missing in the lives of the people you serve than you are aware of what's missing in your own life. A lot of people want their business to do better, but they're not obsessed with making the customer's life better. They're trying to use people as a bridge to their own comfort. But God's design is the opposite. God uses you to serve people, and as you do that with excellence, provision follows. If you make pleasing God and serving people your obsession, it eventually solves a shocking number of personal problems. And this is where many creators misunderstand messaging. You don't build influence by talking endlessly about your product. You build influence by talking clearly about their problem and your solution. A book is not valuable because it exists. A service is not valuable because you offer it. Value exists only when your offering carries transformation, something that genuinely helps people. So you must become aware of their needs, their desires, their pain points, and the language that makes the solution feel real. Because most people are not thinking about you, they're thinking about themselves. If you can become a person who truly obsesses over solving problems, you step into a space with far less competition because very few people do it with sincerity and skill. Awareness is the beginning. Then comes the next mindset skill, decision. Many people have decent awareness but weak decision-making. They see truth, but they don't commit to it. So let's clarify something. Choosing is selecting. Deciding is cutting off alternatives. That's what the word decide implies, to cut away other options. When you decide, you don't say, I'll try. You say, this is who I am now. This is what I'm building now. And when you decide to walk a new path, disruption follows. Growth doesn't feel smooth at first. It stretches you. It exposes weakness. It shows you where you're untrained. This is why successful people tend to decide quickly and change slowly. Struggling people tend to decide slowly and change often. Because when the first attempt feels uncomfortable, they abandon the path before the path can develop them. I'll tell you this as someone who learned it the hard way. When you commit to a craft you're not good at yet, you must allow time for skill to form. I got into sales in 1985. I was terrible, and I kept doing it until I wasn't. And I didn't choose entrepreneurship like a casual preference. I decided, and a decision stays standing when emotions fluctuate. Which leads to the next mindset skill, intention. Intention is sustained focus on what moves your life forward. Here's how I define it. Intention is anything you focus on that moves the needle in your favor. Distraction is anything you focus on that does not move the needle in your favor. A huge separator between people who build wealth and people who stay stuck is this. Successful people aggressively protect their attention. Not because they're above anyone, but because they understand focus is expensive and distraction is costly. If something doesn't strengthen your awareness, reinforce your decision, or advance your objective, you treat it carefully because it's trying to consume your time without paying you back. That doesn't mean you become cold or disconnected. It means you become disciplined. Fix your home before you try to carry the weight of the whole world. Put your oxygen mask on first. Help others from strength, not from collapse. So a proficient mindset includes awareness, decision, intention. And if you master those three, you gain momentum fast. Now we move from mindset into skill set, because mindset without skill still produces frustration. So let's talk skill. In business, there are three core functions you must become proficient in if you want to go from zero to wealth. 1. Innovation. Innovation is the ability to create or source an elegant solution to a real problem for a real group of people. And here's the key. You don't always have to invent from scratch. Sometimes innovation is creating the solution, partnering with someone who has a solution, or promoting an already proven solution. Innovation begins with observation and obsession. You study a problem until the solution becomes clear. 2. Marketing and sales. Marketing comes first. Marketing is the art and science of discovering and developing in people a desire for your product, service, or opportunity. Art, because it affects emotion and meaning. Science, because it's measurable. Marketing is built through asking good questions, listening deeply, and presenting solutions in a way that matches what they care about. Then comes sales. Sales is revealing the value of what you offer so clearly that people are happy to exchange their money for the value they now understand. Sales is not manipulation, it's clarity. When the value is large and the price is small by comparison, people buy almost automatically. 3. Money management. Many people make more money and still stay broke, just at a higher level, because they don't manage what comes in. Money management is keeping the outflow below the inflow. It's making sure upkeep doesn't become downfall. It's also stewardship, thinking beyond yourself, building stability, protecting longevity, and keeping the mission sustainable. You must become proficient in these, because skill turns good intention into real results. Now, there's a third piece in the formula we didn't have time to cover here. Toolset. Toolset is how you multiply what you're learning. Systems, platforms, workflows, leverage, and execution mechanics. That's what we'll tackle next in Zero to Rich Part 3. For now, here's what I want you to do between episodes. Study these principles. Practice awareness daily. Make decisions and cut off alternatives. Focus your attention like it matters, because it does. Obsess over a real problem you can solve. Build an elegant solution. Learn marketing and sales as service, not pressure. And manage money like a steward, not a spender. Do that consistently, and zero stops being your identity. It becomes your starting point. We'll pick up next time with Toolset, and I'll show you how to apply these foundations in a way that scales. Until then, stay focused, stay disciplined, and keep building.